Well, hello folks, welcome back to the Wyoming Way. Well, it's springtime here in Wyoming, which means it's fencing season. We've got a lot of bad fence around here in this part of the country. It's just old fence, probably built, 70 to 80, 90, sometimes even 100 years ago. I kind of equate it to like polishing a turd. And believe me, there's a lot of turds around here to polish, so that's what we're doing today. So join along, hope you enjoy this. Well, I've got a pretty good crew up here today. I've got Dan running the camera. Say hi, Dan.
Hello.
And I've got these other two little munchkins over here. Say hi. Hi. Are you guys going to be any help? Yeah. Probably not. All right. Well, we've hired a fencing contractor to come in and put in a bunch of pipe braces along this fence line. This fence is really old and it's in pretty bad shape. And we're not going to rebuild the thing entirely because that can cost $15,000 to $20,000 a mile to do. We've got like 2.5 miles of fence here that needs work. So instead of rebuilding it, we're rehabilitating it. And you can actually get quite a lot more life out of a fence by just putting in some good braces. This fence really doesn't have any braces right now. They're all rotted off, old wood braces that just disintegrate over time. But anyway, as you can see, we've got some nice pipe braces here, welded, and the wire's old, but we'll get her stretched up to these braces and kind of make sure everything's stapled and clipped. And this fence will be cow-worthy for decades to come. See, this was all that was left of a brace. You can see how, there's really nothing much there. The cross post is just laying on the ground right there. And so yeah, this isn't a brace. So put two braces here and we're gonna have a gate. And that way, if we need to swap cattle back and forth, we'll have a nice gate to go through right here. So I'm gonna start by cutting the wires and show you how I stretch these wires onto this new brace. Got my handy dandy Shipton's fencing pliers here. I don't know if you have a Shipton's where you're from, but Shipton's are like the general store of Wyoming. They have everything. They're really cool. You can go buy clothes and guns and worms for fishing and all kinds of stuff like that. So I'll run my barbed wire over here. So I just hook the end of the barbed wire in there and make a bite, and then I grab with my pliers and pinch right there, and then I use tension and speed to get real nice tight wraps around that wire. So you see nice tight wraps. That's one thing that's like you don't want to see, and you'll see it a lot in fences, is like people will have big kind of ugly coarse looking wraps. You want nice tight wraps. Okay, and then I come over and we're gonna go 3 times around the post, so I'm gonna cut it off right about here. Now I get my come along. And this little tool, this little thing is really handy. I'll show you how this works. Get my come along set up right here under the first wire. And then I'm going to put this wire grabber, hootis, whatever this thing is called, right about here. And that little ring slides up against this tapered body and it pinches, and that allows me to hook the come along on. And we can just go to stretching. Now the thing about this old fence is this wire is like probably 60 to 80 years old, so it really doesn't take a whole lot of tension before it'll break, so you got to be careful. So I usually get it to where it's starting to get kind of tight, and then I go maybe one more and kind of hold my breath and hope it doesn't snap it down the line somewhere. It doesn't need to be too tight. If it's too tight and a deer jumps over and hits it, they'll just break it. So just nice and reasonably tight. And I come over and take as much slack out as I can get. Make my 3 wraps. Again, I use speed and tension to make nice tight wraps. And that ought to hold it. Let my come along off. Voila, we've got one done. So we've got 4 more to do. This nice 5-wire fence. Actually, a lot of this fence that is here was put up back in the day when they ran sheep here, and there's like anywhere from like 7, 8, sometimes 9 wires, because it used to be sheep fence, and you know, sheep, you have to have a lot of wires to keep sheep in. Cattle, you only really need 4 or 5, so like there's 5 here, which is just right, but there was a couple braces down further down the line that had 7, 8, 9 wires, and we just used the top 5 because everything beyond that is just superfluous. It serves no purpose, and a lot of those bottom wires are just buried in the sagebrush by now and whatnot. So we're gonna move these wires up a little bit, so re-space them. So I'm gonna get rid of these clips. There. And then the contractor that's building these braces for us has this really kind of ingenious system where he takes a length of chain and he'll just start welding links on that will hold these wires here. And then when he gets them all welded, he'll just come back and cut the middles out and then use the rest of that chain for the next brace. So it's pretty cool system, I think. But so you just hook the wire right here in this link, and then take your pliers, bend them, kind of close them together. And there you go. That's not going anywhere. Okay, on to the next one. We've got 4 more to do. So you might be noticing that I've got all this like white paste all over my face. And yeah, that's sunscreen, because I just had a little run-in with some skin cancer, which was kind of a surprise to me, but I don't know if you can see it, but right there, I've got like this big scar that's healing right now. I had a couple weeks ago, I had a skin cancer cut off of my scalp right there. It was a basal cell carcinoma, which is like the wimpiest form of skin cancer. Well, anyway, that's how it was explained to me. But long story short, it was a wake-up call to me. You know, I'm very fair-skinned. I've watched my dad for the last 30 years every morning, and then sometimes at noon, slather on sunscreen all over his face and hands and everything. And I always, I would always watch him do that and just think, man, that what a bummer. But I guess that's going to be my life now too. So anyway, if you're out there and you're fair-skinned like me, make sure you wear some sunscreen. Wear a wide-brimmed hat. Wear some sunscreen. It's not something to mess around with. The sun is actively trying to kill you if you're fair-skinned. Just remember that. And also remember that being alive is hazardous to your health. So that's the tip for the day. Well, there you go. That's the finished brace. All the wires are up and tight. And yeah, this will hold cattle for years to come. On most ranches in Wyoming, you're going to see a lot of oil field pipe fences and braces and corrals. And the reason for that is that about 20 years ago, there was a coal bed methane boom in Wyoming, and oil and gas companies came in and developed a lot of gas resources around here. And this is drill stem, this is oil field pipe. And of course, when the industry kind of got deflated, when the prices went down, a lot of the wells got shut in, and a lot of the pipe was pulled out of the ground, and in many cases it was just given to ranchers. And so we received a lot of it, and a lot of the neighbors did around here. And so you're seeing a lot of pipe getting put back into the ground in the form of fencing. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty awesome resource to be able to build these extremely long-lasting stout fences around here. And I want to contrast that with what the old timers used to build fence around here back in the day. You can just imagine maybe 70, 80, 90 years ago. Here is an old cedar post that would have been hand cut and a hole dug by hand. And this post, who knows how old it is, but I bet it's well over 50 years old. And you can see it's really weathered, but it's still actually really stout and in good shape. Funny thing about these posts is when they get old like this, they almost like turn to concrete. Like, you almost can't drive a staple into these. They're amazing how hard and brittle they get. But I mean, if a cow hits this or something, they are brittle and they'll just snap off. But they are pretty rot resistant. I mean, they're just naturally kind of immune to rotting off from snowbanks and stuff like that. But I just like to think of the old timers up here hand building this fence all those decades ago, and hand cutting the cedars and digging the holes and tamping them in. And nowadays we come along with a skid steer with a pounder on it and drive a pipe in, and it takes like 20 seconds. So the wonders of our modern era. Down this draw, we actually got with the neighbor and decided to move the fence a little bit. It kind of runs up the old fence runs up this draw and skirts along the steep side, the right side of the draw over there. Where that fence runs is a really unmanageable spot. For one thing, the snowdrifts lay on it every winter. And also, it's really tight in there. You can't drive equipment, you can't drive a pickup or a side-by-side along that fence line, so you really can't maintain it very easily. So we decided to just cut across this draw and run up over and skirt along the left side of the draw, where you can see it's much flatter and much more it's going to be easier to maintain that fence. This is part and parcel of ranching. You've got to maintain fences. You've got to work with neighbors and build new fences or repair fences as needed. And it really, the old adage that good fences make good neighbors is so true. Just this work we're doing here is going to save a lot of heartache between us and the neighbor, and this is a good neighbor, and we want to keep it that way. We want to stay in good terms with this neighbor. So I'm going to fly the drone down there real quick and just show you that new fence. Okay, so flying along the old fence line here. And I'll show you where the old fence ran. So there's the new brace. Whoop, let me back up. There's the new brace, and the fence is going to run down across that draw and up over on the other side. But I'll show you where the old fence went. You can see the old fence went along here. And it's not so bad, this first few hundred yards of it, but then you're going to see where it gets really steep and tight. So coming up around in here, actually a spot where very difficult to get equipment in there to work on the fence. The fence is basically like down right here. I don't know if you can see that. There's basically no fence there. I mean, like right there, there's supposed to be a brace. There's really no brace. All the wires are down. And there you can see a snowdrift just laid the whole thing over right there. You can see how steep this side hill is. Even if you wanted to go in there and fix that, you really would be hard pressed to get it done. And it goes and then comes all the way over here. So we got with the neighbor and decided to, let me go back to the beginning here. We got with the neighbor and decided to just move the fence. And you know, we end up losing a little bit of acreage out of this deal, but it's not a big deal. It's a fence of convenience, and it won't be exactly on the property line. But this fence already isn't on property line, so it's just not a huge concern. It's not enough acreage to even worry about. So, and the benefit of being able to work on this fence and maintain it makes it well worth it. So where are we here? Where did we come across? Okay. So it looks like maybe the fencer hasn't put the post across this draw yet. But anyway, so here's where the fence is moved. Nice new fence, look at that. Isn't that nice? Just follow it up here a little ways. These guys are so fast. They got all this done in like, I think yesterday they had this whole stretch, like a half mile, they had it all done. Nice big flat meadow here. You can drive right to all of it. Beautiful fence. This guy does a heck of a job. Straight as an arrow. Tight. Pipe braces. Benefit of pipe obviously is not only is it really stout, but you know, if a fire ever comes through this country, it's not gonna ruin our fences. Put a nice gate in there. And then it comes around over this way. And connects with the old fence right there. So we just bypassed all that junk. It's going to be so nice, guys. I cannot tell you how excited I am about that. That's going to alleviate a lot of stress this summer with these cattle being in here. So, excellent job by the fencing contractor, and yeah, win-win for everybody. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. I do hope you enjoyed that one. Stay tuned. We'll catch you on the next one.